What if the reality you're experiencing right now, every single thing you see, hear, touch, what if it isn't fixed? What if it's not just happening to you, but you're actually, maybe without knowing it, creating it from the inside out? Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really going deep, exploring an idea that, well, it challenges pretty much everything you might think about control, about potential, and what's truly possible for you.
That's right. We're diving into this profound concept that your consciousness isn't just aware of reality. It is the ultimate creative power. It's the substance of it all.
So the idea is that the world outside, everything around us, it's basically a mirror reflecting what's going on inside us.
Exactly. A direct reflection of the state you hold within.
Okay. So our mission then in this deep dive is to unpack how that actually works, and maybe more importantly, give you some practical ways to consciously tap into that power.
Yeah, we're looking at techniques, principles, things that can genuinely reveal this inherent ability we all seem to have to shape our world.
All right, let's jump in. Where do we start with this?
Well, the foundation, the absolute core, is this truth. Consciousness is the only reality. Period.
Consciousness is the only reality. That's a big statement.
It is. Think of your fundamental awareness, that sense of just being, often called I am. That's the original state. Unconditioned, boundless potential. Infinite capacity.
Okay, so pure potential, raw awareness. I am. How does that become, my specific life, my specific situation? How does it get defined?
It gets defined or conditioned by whatever you attach to that I am, consciously or unconsciously.
What do you mean attach?
When you say, and more importantly, when you feel I am poor, you're essentially overlaying that boundless awareness with the limitation of poverty. You're conditioning it.
Okay.
And if you say and feel I am successful, you condition it with success. This act of defining, of claiming a state of being is, well, it's everything. Because whatever you are conscious of being, that is what the infinite I am expresses.
So hang on. The outside world, my job, my relationships, my bank account,
right.
All of that is just showing me what I've already accepted as true about myself on the inside.
Precisely. Your external world is an effect. It's like a shadow cast by the state of consciousness you occupy. It has to express what you're conscious of being.
Right.
If you want to change the shadow on the wall, you don't mess with the wall, do you?
No, you change the thing casting the shadow.
Exactly. And in this case, that thing is your conception of yourself, your inner state. Your I am plus whatever you've attached to it.
That really flips things, doesn't it? The focus shifts completely from trying to change things out there to changing something in here. But okay, if my current reality is shouting that I'm broke or stuck or unwell, how do I genuinely change my inner state to I am abundant or I am free or I am healthy? That feels like the hard part.
It can feel like it initially, but that's where the practical application comes in. This isn't just philosophy, it's meant to be applied. And there are techniques, think of them as tools, designed specifically to help you shift your state of consciousness.
Right. Tools to help you become conscious of being the person who already has what you desire.
Exactly. That's the goal.
Okay, techniques.
Yeah.
Are these like rigid formulas or more like different flavors of achieving the same thing?
Definitely more like different paths, different exercises to help you get into that inner feeling of having it now. One classic way to start practicing this kind of inner shift is sometimes called the Abdullah Sit in the Hall exercise.
I think I've heard about that one. Remind me how it works.
It's incredibly simple on the surface. You'd sit physically in one place, say your living room chair.
Okay.
But you consciously, intentionally imagine and feel that you are sitting somewhere else entirely. Maybe a specific bench in Central Park or a cafe in Paris. Wherever.
So you're physically here, but you're mentally, emotionally there. What's the real point of that? Just daydreaming?
Not just daydreaming. The point is to make the imagined location feel so vivid, so real, that your sense of awareness actually detaches from your physical body's location.
How would you know if you succeeded?
The test was key. If you were sitting in your imagined New York spot and you thought of a friend back home in, say, California, did that friend feel close by, or did they feel 3,000 miles away?
Oh, interesting. So if they felt far away.
It meant you'd successfully shifted your consciousness. You'd trained yourself to feel, I am here in the imagined place, even while your physical senses were reporting, I am there, in the room. It's practice, getting loose, detaching awareness from the physical.
Okay, that makes sense as a way to build that mental muscle.
Yeah.
What about shifting states of being, like moving from feeling anxious to feeling secure?
There's a technique described simply as falling, not a physical fall, obviously.
Right.
While maybe lying down, relaxed, you deliberately let yourself mentally and emotionally fall into the feeling of the desired state.
Falling into a feeling, what does that mean practically?
It's about dropping the tension, the resistance associated with the old unwanted state. You just surrender. You sink into the feeling of the new state. Security, confidence, whatever it is.
So it requires really letting go of the old state.
Completely. Burning the bridges, so to speak. Trusting that your imagination, your wonderful human imagination, is carrying you into that new reality.
That sounds like it involves letting go of the how as well. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need to map out the steps to get secure. I just need to land in the feeling of security.
Precisely. You nail it down right there. And that leads perfectly into another key approach. Go to the end, or you could call it fast forward.
Go to the end.
Yeah. Instead of trying to plot a course from A to B, from your current situation to your desire, you skip all that. You go straight in your imagination to the feeling, the scene, the state of your wish already being fulfilled.
You just jump right into the finished picture.
Yes. You live there mentally. You dwell in that end state. You walk around in your mind and your feelings as though things were already exactly as you want them to be.
Even if everything outside is saying the opposite.
Especially then, you occupy that state so persistently, so faithfully, that your inner assumption becomes dominant. And when it's dominant, it must eventually harden into fact in your outer world. It's like declaring, this reality I want, it's already done, I'm just living from that truth now.
Living from the end, not towards it. That's a powerful
It
distinction.
really is. It implies the outer world is just playing catch-up to your inner state.
So the outer is the shadow.
And the inner is the substance, exactly. By remaining in the mental state of your wish fulfilled, you automatically start attracting the circumstances, people, events needed to embody that state externally.
How do you cultivate that state? Especially if it feels foreign.
One way is to deliberately catch the mood.
Catch the mood, like catching a cold.
Well, maybe more like tuning into a radio station.
Yeah.
You identify the mood, the specific feeling associated with already having your desire fulfilled. What would it feel like?
Okay. Peace, maybe. Or excitement, relief.
Whatever it is for you. Then you deliberately, consciously create that mood within yourself. You choose to feel it, and you dwell in it.
Even if it feels like pretending at first.
Yes, it might feel artificial initially, but you practice returning to that mood, making it your mental home base until it becomes your natural habitual state, your perpetual home, as it's sometimes called.
So if I wanted more peace, I wouldn't necessarily focus on fixing the external chaos. I'd focus on actively cultivating the feeling of peace inside.
That's the essence of it. You prioritize occupying the state of peace. And really, underpinning all these techniques, maybe the most fundamental approach of all, is what's called dare to assume.
Dare to assume.
Dare to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled.
Even if every fiber of your being and all the evidence around you screams that it's not true.
That's precisely the dare. You assume the feeling, and then this is crucial, you remain absolutely faithful to that assumption, regardless of what your senses tell you, regardless of setbacks or appearances. The principle is stated very clearly. Assumptions, though false, if sustained, will harden into fact.
That requires serious discipline
Yeah,
and faith in this inner reality.
it does. It requires blinding your senses, in a way, to the current reality that denies your assumption. You live by inner conviction, making your inner world fit the pattern of your assumption, and trusting knowing the outer world has no choice but to follow.
Okay, so those techniques seem focused on shifting the overall feeling or state. What about using like specific mental movies or actions in your imagination?
Yes, very effective. You can actively construct an event in your imagination.
Like a mini movie.
Sort of, but simpler. It's not about imagining the whole long story of how your wish unfolds. It's about creating one simple, single, sensory-rich scene.
One scene.
Yes, but a scene that implies your desire is already fulfilled. The power isn't in the scene's complexity, it's in what that scene signifies, that it's done.
And it has to be, from my own perspective.
Crucial point, you must be the central actor experiencing the scene. First person. So, for example, if you desire, say, a promotion, you might imagine a short scene where your boss or a colleague is shaking your hand, congratulating you.
The congratulations technique. I've heard that's very powerful. Hearing someone confirm it's done.
Extremely. You imagine hearing specific people, friends, loved ones, congratulating you. You hear their voice, maybe feel their handshake or hug, see their smile. You feel the warmth of their joy for you.
Why is that so effective?
Because their reaction in your imagination acts like a powerful living mirror. It reflects back to you, confirms that this new state is now your reality.
That really makes it feel solid internally. What if you're not comfortable imagining direct interaction like that? Is there another way?
Absolutely, you could use the eavesdrop technique.
Eavesdropping in my imagination.
Exactly. It's a variation where you imagine overhearing a conversation between other people. And in this conversation, they're discussing your fulfilled desire as if it's just a normal, established fact.
Oh, like hearing them say, "Isn't it great about their new success?" Or something like that.
Precisely. Hearing others speak of it from the premise that it's already real is a profoundly effective way to impress your own subconscious mind. You're essentially listening in on the reality you've created.
Okay, that's clever. And there's another one that uses memory, kind of in reverse.
Yes, the I remember when technique. This one's quite subtle, but very powerful. You cultivate the feeling, the definite sense of remembering a time when you did not have your desire.
Wait, you remember not having it? Why would I focus on the lack? That feels counterintuitive.
It does seem that way at first, but think about it. If you can genuinely, from a place of current fulfillment, say to yourself, wow, I remember when I used to worry about money, what does that imply?
It implies that I don't worry about it anymore, that the worry is in the past.
Exactly. It powerfully anchors the present reality of having your desire by placing the former state of lack firmly in the past, in memory. I remember when I was single and lonely implies you are now happily partnered. It stamps the present moment with the reality of fulfillment.
Ah, I get it now. It's using memory to confirm the present achievement. That's a neat mental trick. Are there any simpler approaches, maybe less structured, focusing more on just senses or particular time of day?
Definitely. For people who like analogies, there's the time exposure technique.
Yeah.
Think of your mind like sensitized camera film.
Okay.
You set up the desired event, the end result, in your mind's eye. You focus on it clearly.
Taking a mental snapshot.
More like holding the shutter open at time exposure.
Right.
The really key ingredient here is feeling. You build up the feeling associated with that scene. Excitement, satisfaction, relief, whatever fits.
And then?
And then often there's a point, maybe felt as a deep breath, a sigh of release, or just a sense of inner click, where that image, that feeling is impressed onto the film of your subconscious mind.
And time develops the picture.
That's the idea. Time acts as the developer, bringing that imaginal impression into your physical world. And the beauty is the camera's always loaded, the film is free. You just practice taking the picture with feeling.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
It makes it feel less effortful, more about focus and feeling.
Exactly. And that emphasis on feeling connects directly to another technique, sometimes just called feel deeply.
How is that different from, say, catching the mood?
It's related, but maybe emphasizes the depth, the saturation of the feeling. It's described sometimes as smothering yourself in the feeling of the wish fulfilled.
Smothering yourself, that sounds intense.
It implies a total immersion. It's not just a fleeting emotion, it's a deep, profound acceptance within your imagination that it is done. It's a knowing. And reaching that state of complete acceptance is what sends the creative energy out. Once you've truly reached that conviction, it's said you can't take it back. It will externalize.
So when we talk about feeling, it's less about high emotion, maybe, and more about this deep sense of acceptance, knowingness.
Precisely. It's a calm, settled conviction, a decision made and accepted in imagination. The intense emotions, joy, relief, gratitude might arise from that state of acceptance, but the core power is in the acceptance itself.
Okay. And isn't there a particular time that's supposed to be especially good for this kind of inner work?
Yes, absolutely. The state just before you fall asleep is often called the state akin to sleep, or S8s.
Sex-8s, right.
The feel as you fall asleep technique uses this window. As you're drifting off, drowsy, relaxed, you imagine yourself actually in the desired situation, not just watching it, but being in it.
Engaging the senses, you mean? Like
Yeah.
feeling the steering wheel of the new car or...
Exactly. Feeling the texture of the sheets in your new home, smelling the salt air at your dream beach house, hearing the sounds associated with your fulfilled desire. You engage touch, sight, sound, smell within that imagined scene.
And you just drift off to sleep while holding that feeling.
You drift off in that state, inhabiting that reality. It's powerful because your conscious mind, your critical factor, is quieting down. The subconscious is more receptive, more easily impressed.
Makes sense?
Or an even simpler variation for SX is just repeating a short, potent phrase that implies fulfillment. Something like, isn't it wonderful? Or just, thank you, thank you, thank you, feeling the gratitude and letting that lull you to sleep.
That sounds very doable, very direct for impressing the subconscious.
Yeah.
But what about people who say, I just can't visualize, or meditation is really hard for me? Are there options for them?
Yes, definitely. There are simpler entry points. One suggestion for those who find detailed scenes or deep states challenging is this. Just sit quietly, close your eyes, gently turn your attention inward.
Okay.
Focus your awareness just inside your head, within your skull. It's simply a withdrawal from focusing on the outer world.
All right. Focused inward, then what?
Then, while in that quiet inward space, you deliberately think of someone else, and you mentally rejoice with them in their good fortune.
Rejoice with them for something good happening to them.
Yes, and this is key. It's empathy. Rejoicing with them, feeling their joy or success as if it were happening to you. It's specifically not sympathy or pity if they are struggling.
Why not pity?
Because pity, feeling sorry for someone's lack, is seen as agreeing with and therefore reinforcing that state of lack, both for them and within your own consciousness. But rejoicing in another's success, genuinely feeling happy for them and with them.
Right.
That's an act of pure love, of abundance consciousness. It helps you lose your own sense of limitation by identifying with fulfilled desire, even if it's for someone else initially. And what you give out, you attract back.
It's a beautiful way to look at it. Shifting focus to abundance for others actually cultivates it in yourself.
Okay.
Good. One last area. What about that constant chatter in our heads, our internal monologue?
Oh, absolutely critical.
Yeah.
Control inner speech, your silent conversations with yourself, the arguments you have, the stories you tell yourself in your mind. That inner speech is constantly powerfully creative. It attracts the outer circumstances that match it.
So if I'm constantly rehearsing worries or complaints internally,
You're essentially placing an order for more circumstances that justify those worries and complaints. Your inner speech is a form of prayer, whether you realize it or not.
wow.
By consciously changing your internal dialogue, making sure your inner conversations align with your wish already being fulfilled, talking to yourself from the state of having it be, you direct that potent creative energy purposefully. This alone can create massive shifts.
Okay, we've covered the core idea, lots of techniques, but, the big question is always, does this stuff actually work? Are there examples? Proof?
Well, proponents point to countless personal stories, and there are some classic examples often used to illustrate the principle in action. One is maybe surprisingly simple. The story of the man who used imagination to catch a specific record-breaking fish.
A fish? Really? Tell me about that.
Yeah, a 12.5-pound trout, specifically. He was fishing in a private club pond where the record was like 10 pounds or something.
Yeah.
He decided, purely in his imagination, that he would catch a 12.5-pound trout that night. He didn't worry about how or if such a fish was even in there. He just created the imaginal act, felt the satisfaction of having caught it.
Yeah.
And the next day, he went fishing and pulled out exactly that, a 12.5-pound trout, breaking the club record. It's used to show the principle works even for very specific, seemingly mundane desires.
It's pretty specific and
Oh.
tangible. There's another one too, right? An exercise designed specifically to prove the power of imagination over just conscious intention.
Ah, yes, the famous climb the ladder exercise. This was often given as homework, you could say.
How did it work?
Participants were instructed to imagine vividly climbing a ladder every night before sleep for several consecutive nights. Feel the rungs, the motion, everything.
Okay, simple imaginal act.
At the same time, during the day, they were told to consciously resist this idea, to write notes saying, I will not climb a ladder, and place them around their house, constantly affirming their conscious intention not to do it.
So consciously fighting the imagined act.
Exactly. Setting up a conflict between the subconscious impression and the conscious will. And the result.
They ended up climbing ladders.
Time after time, people reported finding themselves, within about a week, unexpectedly needing to climb a physical ladder. Maybe a bulb blew or a neighbor needed help getting something off a roof.
Despite consciously telling themselves they wouldn't.
Precisely. It powerfully demonstrates that the sustained imaginal act creates an inner compulsion, an imperative, that finds a way to express itself externally, often bypassing or overriding conscious resistance.
That really drives home the point about where the real power lies.
It does. It suggests the inner command is primary. And if it works for climbing a ladder,
It works for anything you can vividly imagine and feel is real.
Yeah.
Okay? It feels like all these different techniques, the scenes, the feelings, the SATs, they're all pointing back to something you mentioned earlier, feeling as acceptance.
absolutely. The techniques are tools, vehicles. The destination is that state of acceptance, that calm inner knowing, that feeling as if it's already done. It's not necessarily about conjuring intense emotion on demand, though joy might come. It's about reaching a state of settled inner conviction.
A decision made in imagination.
That's a great way to put it. That inner decision, that acceptance, that's the operative power. The techniques just help you get there.
But okay, let's be real. What happens when you do get there? You achieve that inner feeling, that acceptance, and then you open your eyes, look at your bank statement, or deal with the difficult situation, and the 3D world, as some call it, completely contradicts your inner state. What then?
The advice is consistent. You ignore the contradiction.
Ignore it. How?
Not by fighting it or pretending it doesn't exist in a stressful way, but by withdrawing your attention and energy from it and gently, persistently returning your focus to your desired state within. You don't argue with the appearances, you simply claim your desired reality internally and stay there.
So you don't give power to the external contradiction.
Exactly. You remember that the 3D world is the shadow, the reflection. The real work, the substance, is always within your consciousness. Persist in the assumption, and the shadow must change.
This ties right into that really core principle of no other God, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It's fundamental to believe that your well-being, your success, your health ultimately comes from something external. Money, a person, a pill, a circumstance, is seen as limiting yourself. It's putting your faith, your sense of the source of your good, in something outside your own awareness, your own I am.
Because the real source, the only source, is that inner awareness.
Precisely. The true creative power is within you. That consciousness is the God power. The story often used is Jesus healing the crippled man at the temple gate.
Right, the man was begging for money.
Yes, for silver and gold, external things. But Jesus didn't give him money. He said effectively, external stuff I don't have for you, but what I do have, this inner power, this consciousness of freedom that I give you, rise up and walk.
He activated the power within the man.
Exactly. He stirred the gift within, the inherent power of consciousness itself, rather than just treating the symptom or providing the external lack. The external things, the silver and gold, are effects that naturally follow when you claim the right inner state. It's about identifying with your true nature as this boundless awareness, not as a limited person needing things from outside.
And that connects to the symbolism of washing the feet, too.
Yes, that's often interpreted symbolically. The higher consciousness, Jesus, cleansing the lower aspect, the understanding, the feet, of all its limiting human beliefs, its conceptions of itself as lacking or separate from the source.
It really is a complete shift in perspective. The whole locus of creation moves from outside to inside.
It is. It's about recognizing your own awareness, your I am as the Lord and Master, the ultimate creative power, and cleansing the temple of your mind from all those limiting beliefs, those money changers that tell you power lies elsewhere.
Okay, so let's try and bring this deep dive together. The core principle we've really explored today is that consciousness, your own fundamental awareness, your sense of I am, that's the one and only creative force in your life.
Right. What you are conscious of being, what you truly accept and feel as real within yourself, that is what your external world simply has to express. It's law.
And the journey then, the work, is about consciously choosing that inner state, persistently dwelling in the feeling, the assumption that your wish is already fulfilled.
And we've touched on a whole toolkit of techniques: shifting location mentally, constructing scenes, eavesdropping, remembering when, using assets, feeling deeply, controlling inner speech, even rejoicing for others. They're all just different pathways to help you reach that crucial state of inner acceptance.
So the invitation for you listening is maybe to find the technique or the approach that resonates most, the one that feels most natural or intriguing to you right now, and then practice it.
Exactly. Consistency over intensity sometimes. It's not about getting it perfect every time, but about persistently returning to that desired state within your imagination. It's an exploration, really, of this incredible power we all possess.
It truly is. So here's a final thought to leave you with, something to mull over from this deep dive. If your awareness truly is the only reality, the only creative power, and the entire outer world is just its reflection, then what does that really imply about any limits you think you have? About your capabilities, about what's truly possible for you to create and experience in your life?